Hola clase, hoy vamos a aprender cómo conjugar los verbos en el tiempo presente. Hi class, today we are going to learn how to conjugate verbs in the present tense. So this is going to be an introduction to the present tense as well as how to conjugate a verb in Spanish. So we are going to look at our AR verbs first, and then later on this week we will look at our ER and IR verbs. There is a worksheet that goes along with this PowerPoint in Google Classroom, so please make sure that you are filling it out as you go along, and feel free to pause at any time. So first we are going to start off with the fundamental parts of a verb. So we have three fundamental parts. Our first one is the infinitive. So the infinitive is the basic unconjugated form of the verb. It is the one that corresponds with the English to do something. So for example, we have to speak, to work, to sing. You guys also saw other examples of infinitives in your chapter 1A vocab. So you saw to use a computer, to talk on the phone, to ski, to write stories, and so on and so forth. So your infinitive always ends in the letter R. So again, if you see the letter R, that is a giveaway that your verb is in the infinitive form. Our second part is the ending. So how do I tell what the ending is? The ending is just the last two letters of the infinitive. So again, looking at the verb, you're going to go to the very last two letters. It's going to tell you what type of verb it is. So looking at this gives you a different list of all different type of verbs you guys can see. So we have three types of verbs in Spanish. We have verbs that end in AR or AR verbs. We have ER verbs or IR verbs. So the way we tell what type of verb it is by looking at our ending. So again, just looking at those last two letters tells me what type of verb it will be. So looking at our verb hablar on the screen, you can see the last two letters are AR. So this tells us it is an AR verb. Our next example is comer. Comer ends in ER, therefore it is an ER verb. And escribir, the last two letters are IR, therefore it is an IR verb. So now what I want you guys to do is to pause the video. On your worksheet it asks for two verbs of each different type. So you are going to write down two AR verbs, two ER verbs, and two IR verbs. So you can choose any from the list on the screen. Now we are going to move on to our third fundamental part of the Spanish verb. So looking at it, this is our stem or our root. So I will refer to it as the stem. So the stem is whatever is left over after removing the ending from the infinitive. So the ending is our last two letters. When you remove those last two letters, all the letters left over is now your stem. So your stem, the length of it can depend on just how long your verb is. So in Spanish, we have some verbs that are only 3 or 4 letters, and we have others that are a lot longer. So depending on how long the verb is, just depends on how long your stem will be. So all you need to do is, again, you're just going to remove the last two letters. Whatever is left over is your stem. So looking at these, this is the list that we looked at before when we talked about AR, ER, and IR verbs. So we looked at the first three. Your first one was your verb hablar, which was an AR verb. When we remove the AR ending, we are now left with HABL. HABL is now our stem. Another example is our verb comer. Comer ended in ER. When we remove the ER, we are left with COM, and that is our new stem. Our last example was our verb escribir. Escribir ended in IR. If we remove the IR, we are left with escrib, which is our stem. So just as a quick review, there are three important parts of the verb, and you need to make sure that you understand all different parts. So our first one is our infinitive. That is the verb in its unconjugated form, so you haven't done anything to it. Then there is the ending, which is just the last two letters of the infinitive. And then lastly, we have our stem, which is whatever is left over after taking the ending away. So if you guys look on your screen, I have an example for you. It is your verb estudiar, which means to study. So estudiar itself is the infinitive. The ending, or the last two letters, are AR. So this tells me it is an AR verb. Then the last part is our stem. So if I take away the AR, I'm left with estudi, which is now our stem. Alright, so moving on to conjugation. So you guys will hear me a lot say you need to conjugate this verb. So what exactly does that mean? So when we speak in the present tense, we change the endings of the verb depending on the person taking the action. So again, depending on whoever is doing the action, we are going to change that ending. So an example of conjugating in English, we'll look at the verb to walk. All right, so if I say I walk versus he or she walks, you can see we have to add an S to the end, depending on whom the subject is. So in Spanish, we do this for every single subject. So this is why your subject pronouns were so important. So what I want you guys to do right now is to pause the video. Underneath on the worksheet, you guys will see that you need to fill in the subject pronoun chart. So take a second, pause it, fill in the chart. When you come back, we're going to go over the chart to make sure that you have them all correct, and then we are going to get into our AR verb endings. Okay, now that you're back, we are going to go over our subject pronoun chart. So remember the first person, so the top left-hand box, we are going to have yo, which means I. Our second person, so the next box below, we are going to have tu, which means you, informal. In our third person, so the bottom left-hand corner, we are going to have él, which means he, ella, which means she, and usted, which means you, formal. So now we're going to look at the right-hand side of our chart. So the upper right-hand box, we have nosotros or nosotras, which means we. Our next box is vosotros or vosotras, which means you all. This is only used in Spain. And then our bottom right-hand box is our third person plural. So we have ellos, which means they, all males or a mix. Ellas, which means they, but all females. And ustedes, which means you all, which is used in every other country besides Spain. So now let's take a look on how to actually conjugate a verb. So we have three different things that you need to know. Our first one, you're going to take any regular verb. And this is important because later on we will go over irregular verbs. So take any regular verb. You're going to remove the ending. So in this case, you're going to take away the AR. And then you are going to replace it with the proper ending based on the person taking the action. So depending on who is doing the action, you are going to have a different ending. So you are going to start with your infinitive. You're going to remove the AR ending. And then you are going to add or replace it with a different ending. So let's look at those endings. So again, this is why our subject pronoun chart was so important and I tried to stress to you guys. So if our subject is yo, our ending is going to be the letter O. If our subject is tu, our ending is going to be AS or AS. If our subject is él, ella, or usted, our ending is going to be the letter A or A. If our subject is nosotros or nosotras, our ending is going to be amos. If ours is ellos, ellas, ustedes, ours is going to be an. And we can't forget about our vosotros, which is going to be ais. Notice our accent is on the letter A because it is an AR verb. So this is important. You guys need to memorize these endings in the proper order. So, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. So make sure you memorize those endings. So now we are going to take a look at our example. So this will be the last thing that we are going to do. So we are going to look at the verb hablar, which means to talk. So hablar is an AR verb. We can tell by looking at the last two letters. When I remove the ending or the AR, I am now left with my stem, which is HABL. So what we are going to do now is to add our new endings onto our stem depending on who is talking. So you guys can see here, again, hablar means to speak. So our yo form, we have our stem, which is HABL. We are going to add the letter O to the end. Yo hablo. That means I speak. The to form, we are going to start with our stem, HABL, and we are going to add the AR ending in the to form, which is AS. Tú hablas. You speak. Now we are going to go down to the él, ella, usted form. Again, we are going to start with our stem, HABL. Our ending for an AR verb is the letter A. So now we have habla. So él habla, he speaks. Ella habla, she speaks. And usted habla, you formal speak. Now we're going to go up to nosotros. So again, first thing we do is start with our stem, HABL. Now we are going to add our ending to the end. Amos. Nosotros hablamos. We speak. Next, we have our vosotros form. Again, we start with our stem, HABL. Now we are going to add our ending to the end, ais. Vosotros habláis. You all speak. Again, only used in Spain. And our last conjugation we are going to start with our stem, HABL. We are going to add our ending, which is an. So, ellos hablan, they speak. Ellas hablan, they speak. Ustedes hablan, you all speak. And that is it as far as conjugating verbs. So remember, you need to study that subject pronoun chart. I told you guys how important it is, so make sure that you have that memorized. After you know that subject pronoun chart, you now need to remember your new AR verb ending. So the o, as, a, amos, ais, an. And again, memorize that in order. It will really help you. So today we are going to continue practicing with AR verbs as well as tomorrow, and then we are going to get into ER and IR verbs in the present tense.